Counter-Strike 2 might still be in beta, but leaks have shown that Valve is about to shake things up. Valve has announced future tournament changes, league changes, and matchmaking changes that might affect platforms like Faceit. Ever since the beginning of Counter-Strike, people have looked for ways to play it competitively. So we turned to third-party leagues like OGL and CAL. Now, CAL was the first league that introduced a major tournament. This was known as the CPL. It was an open tournament that was held twice a year, and had the benefit of using CAL rankings to determine what seed you would be. CAL did have a pretty big problem though, and that was the fact that there was no anti-cheat. Now, even OGL had an anti-cheat known as Punkbuster, but it wasn't considered an official league for Counter-Strike. It wasn't until leagues like CEVO and ESEA that we got official leagues with anti-cheat specifically built for the game. Now, ESEA was a big leap forward, not just because it had anti-cheat and leagues, but also because you could assemble pugs in it. Pug, of course, meaning pickup game. And it also came with a very intricate stats system. This meant that you didn't have to play in leagues to show off to people how good you were at the game. Now, back in the old days, we had to use a third-party program called MIRC to gather players, and then we'd go to a channel called Find Scrim to, well, find a scrim. This could make things quite a bit tedious if you had a partner and wanted to play a more organized game than casual mode. Casual mode is what pubs from the previous versions of Counter-Strike were renamed for Counter-Strike Global Offensive. And that is because none of the prior versions of Counter-Strike had an official matchmaking mode. This was not added until Counter-Strike Global Offensive. This meant you no longer needed to hop on MIRC or ESEA to play by the competitive rule set, which really opened up competitive Counter-Strike to a huge number of players. But it did have one issue, and that was that you were stuck on 64-tick servers. And if you wanted to play 128-tick, you would have to play on ESEA servers. But of course, pugging on ESEA servers required you to pay monthly. Enter Faceit. Faceit allowed you to pug on 128-tick servers without having to pay a monthly fee. On top of this, you got other features that ESEA provided for a monthly fee, which was an anti-cheat that was actually good, and of course statistics. Now, I mentioned the anti-cheat was good because prior to this, any free service that had an anti-cheat used a really bad anti-cheat meant for many different games. Now, the last thing I want to talk about is most recently, Faceit and ESEA have merged. This means if you're playing league matches this year, you're playing league matches through Faceit. Now, why is this recap important? Well, it looks like in CS2, Valve's about to shake things up. Hey guys, if you're looking for a quick way to sell your skins safely, then make your way over to sellyourskins.com. Selling your skins is pretty much instant with an average time of 5 minutes to receive your funds. They can send you the money in several different ways, such as PayPal, bank, and crypto. There is also a bonus system where the more you sell on the site, the better deals you will get permanently. Use the link in the description and use my code TIMES to get an extra bonus today. To start, they put up this post, a level playing field. Counter-Strike is at its best when teams compete on a level playing field and when ability is the only limit to their success. Over the past few years, we've seen professional Counter-Strike drift away from that ideal. The ecosystem has become gradually less open, with access to the highest levels of competition increasingly gated by business relationships. We think Counter-Strike should be an open sport, so we're going to add new requirements to running large-scale competitive events. Tournament organizers will no longer have unique business relationships or other conflicts of interest with teams that participate in their events. Invitations to all tournaments will use our ranking system detailed here, or otherwise be determined by open qualifiers. Any compensation for participating teams, prize pool or otherwise, will be made public and will be driven by objective criteria that can be inspected by the community. Now, the reason they want prize money earned to be public is because they're going to be using that and head-to-head results to determine seeding. Now, in theory, this should make it much easier for new, talented teams to break into the scene. Sadly, this won't take full effect until 2025. Which should give current organizations plenty of time to tweak their rosters to try to maintain their spots on top. But this isn't the only thing that Counter-Strike is going to be changing with the release of Counter-Strike 2. Counter-Strike 2 uses a sub-tick system instead of using 128-tick. This means that there won't be any hardware benefit to playing on servers like Faceit for pugs. On top of that, they're adding a bunch of new changes to their matchmaking system, really trying to push Premier Competitive Mode, which will have its own ranking system separate from current matchmaking. This mode will allow you to veto maps, and overall it works very much like Faceit. Valve is really pushing to make sure the majority of players play on their servers. On top of that, Premier Mode will have seasons and worldwide rankings. But it looks like they're making both competitive and Premier Mode first to 13 rounds. This is the same as it was in the original Counter-Strike 1.6 days. And to maximize the amount of players playing, they're going to be getting rid of short competitive mode. Premier matches will have 20-second freeze time with 1 overtime, and if you tie in the overtime, it'll end in a tie. So this means that competitive matches will be switching over to first to 13. This is because Valve dictates what's going to happen at the open qualifiers and the majors, so to stay relevant, everything will follow suit. But there's more! If you do well enough to get on the top of the leaderboard, you're going to get the opportunity to record your nickname on the leaderboard. Leaderboards will be sorted by region, and if you feel like you get stuck at a certain elo, you'll be able to recalibrate. On a side note, it also seems like you won't be able to start a game with a 4 queue. This system looks like it's mainly being designed to pull people away from playing services like Faceit, which is only really going to work if the anti-cheat is up to par. Keep in mind that Faceit uses a very intrusive anti-cheat. Meanwhile, for CS2, Valve is going to be using VAC Live, which seems to be a major step up from their prior anti-cheat. But knowing Valve and how they try to make their anti-cheats unintrusive, it probably won't be as good as the Faceit one. That being said, what will the effect of this be on league play? While technically 5Q teams can outperform individual players in Premier Mode, I don't see any real benefit for teams to move away from league play to Premier Mode instead. Though Valve could easily change this if they wanted, since they do control who gets into the majors by saying the top ranked teams would be getting into it from Premier Mode. But as of right now, according to their statement, this is not the case. Right now, they have open qualifiers, anyone can join, no matter what your rank is on Premier Mode or in regular league play. As long as you can perform well at the qualifier, you could make it to a major. These are some pretty major changes and sure to shake up the pro scene. Not only that, it's not impossible to imagine that top-level teams might look towards the Valve leaderboards to pick up other top players to join them, which may open up new opportunities for top skill players who may not understand how the entire league system works. Also, the decrease in maximum rounds means that there will no longer be short matches, but they will be keeping Wingman. Who knows what they'll plan to do with that? Maybe they'll add a separate Premier Mode for Wingman, but nothing's been hinted at yet. Overall, it is a very exciting time to be a Counter-Strike player, and I have to admit, there's never been a better time to try to attempt to go pro, especially with the tournament changes coming up. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and found it informative. What are your thoughts on these upcoming changes? Do you think this is going to be for the betterment of Counter-Strike, or just in Valve's own personal interests? Please let me know in the comments down below, and as always, have a great day.